How's it going, friends? On today's video, we're talking best luxury neighborhoods in the Twin Cities. So specifically Minneapolis and Saint Paul, and I'll do another video on best luxury suburbs in the Twin Cities. I think this is gonna be a really fun video. I'm such a fan of architecture and design, and I love a good luxury home. So this will be a lot of fun talking through where can you find luxury homes in the Twin Cities. And even if you can't afford a luxury home, you might be able to be adjacent to the luxury homes, and maybe you like that. Right here, Cedar Isles Dean, this is a neighborhood I live in, and I feel very lucky to live here. This is Lake of the Isles, one of my favorite lakes, if not my favorite lake in Minneapolis. What do you say? Dive in? Well, not into the lake. Dive into the video? Let's dive in. How's it going, friends? My name is Jesse Lynch, and I run the hardest working real estate team in the game. We're called To The Twin Cities, and you can check out our website, tothetwincities.com. But this YouTube channel, it's all here for you as a resource if you are moving to the Twin Cities, trying to find a place to live, helping you find the right place to land here in the beautiful Twin Cities of Minnesota. And that's whether you're buying your first, second, third house, or relocating from a different city, state, country, planet, dimension, something like that. So local real estate services, relocations, that's what we do, and that's what we do better than anybody else. So if any of that appeals to you, then do me a favor, do yourself a favor, subscribe to this channel, click the little bell to get notified so you can see every time we put out videos just like this. And if you wouldn't mind, give the video a thumbs up, say something funny, nice, whatever in the comments, and I would appreciate that very much. And as always, if you're thinking about moving here, if you're thinking about buying a house or selling a house, get a hold of us and we will crush it for you. You can go to our website, tothetwincities.com. We have a contact form there that you can fill out in like 30 seconds or less, or you can just shoot us an email directly to info@tothetwincities.com. I have no preference which way you do it. They lead to the same spot, so totally up to you. We just ask that you do it. Look, right now, I'm in Cedar Isles Dean still, the neighborhood that I live in. One of the coolest neighborhoods in all of Minnesota, in my opinion. Got a little bit of a low bridge here. Classic. And Cedar Isles Dean has a median sale price of just under $1 million at $960,000, with a median list price of $1.124, which kind of shows that some people maybe list a little high. A lot of what makes it luxury isn't this branch. It's actually just the fact that it's so close to the lakes. It's between basically Cedar Lake, like the name implies, and Lake of the Isles, which is this lake right here. I love that you can see downtown from the lake, across the lake, just so cool. But so Cedar Isles Dean, so much of it is about this natural aspect combined with luxury homes, and historic luxury homes at that. You're also what I call uptown adjacent. I lived in uptown for quite some time. At this point in my life, I'm glad I'm not living in uptown because of sort of the hustle and bustle, but it's very nice to be very close by, so you can go there for food, outings, things like that. Right now we're also like literally, I don't know, a block from the Midtown Greenway, which is a bike path that cuts all the way across Minneapolis, and it's just such a great asset to Minneapolis. Even if you don't end up living in Cedar Isles Dean, I would not be surprised if you end up here for some occasional recreational outdoor activities, not the least of which, jumping off this bridge into there. That is definitely a thing people do. It's fun to see. I see it almost every warm day in the summer. But how cool is this bridge, this channel? We have chain of lakes, and so this leads from Lake of the Isles to Cedar Lake. So cool, you can canoe all over the place. One thing of note is that students living in Cedar Isles Dean can attend Kenwood Elementary School, which features artist residencies for all grades in middle school. So cool. So like, you know, high art and going for that kind of thing. And is also the home to the citywide autism program, which again, very, very cool. And now after all that crazy route, here I am back at the trail around the lake. All right, y'all, this spot right here is the Fremont Triangle, which really just represents a great intersection in an awesome neighborhood, which is Lowry Hill. Basically, Fremont Avenue and then Mount Curve Avenue, which is a absolutely stunning street in Minneapolis. So next up on the list is the Lowry Hill neighborhood, another one of my favorite neighborhoods. I'll be honest, this is pretty much a list of some of the coolest neighborhoods in the Twin Cities, but for sure, the Lowry Hill neighborhood definitely screams luxury many times throughout the neighborhood. Median list price is $1.295 million, median close price $1.3 million. At the moment, there are several homes on the market in the Lowry Hill neighborhood over the $1.5 million, I think pushing up to $4 million right now. Some of this Mount Curve, some of the beautiful aspects of Mount Curve is sort of views, right? There are certain parts of Mount Curve and also a street called Groveland Terrace where you get these really great views of downtown and just kind of long-reaching views, which in the city of Minneapolis can be difficult to find. As if this house wasn't proof enough, I'm literally surrounded by stunning homes right now. Maybe some that are not quite what you would consider luxury. They're just like high-end homes, but there are luxury homes everywhere throughout this neighborhood. You'll find a good mix of architectural styles, from Victorian to some of the most intense craftsmen you've ever seen, to even French or Italian-esque homes. One thing you don't see very often in the Twin Cities is tiled roofs, but you will find it in this neighborhood. You'll see some of the most wildly landscaped homes in this neighborhood, and you'll also see the occasional mansion that's been converted into condos or maybe apartments, but it is largely single-family homes, epic single-family homes all throughout this neighborhood. We're also still extremely close to the chain of lakes. We're right next to the Walker Art Center, where there's a great view. These houses right here have a crazy view downtown, Loring Park, Walker Art Center. It's just so cool. I absolutely love these neighborhoods. And just on the eastern edge of the Lowry Hill neighborhood, you have Hennepin Avenue, which is absolutely chock full of commercial places like the Lowry, for example, great restaurant, Sebastian Joe's, legendary local ice cream spot, and Spy House, etc. Anytime I get a chance to show people homes in this neighborhood, I'm just so excited because it's some of my favorite examples of architecture combined with tree-lined streets, because it's one of my favorite examples of, you know, epic architecture. It's like a phenomenal high-level historical architecture along with these tree-lined streets and kind of this cozy, wooded, I don't know, masterpiece of a neighborhood. Let's keep it moving. All right, y'all, next up on the luxury neighborhoods in the Twin Cities is Kenwood. Kenwood is such a beautiful neighborhood, such a picturesque neighborhood, absolutely filled with beautiful homes. And they would vary from just very nice, well-kept, more modest size homes to proper luxury homes. A big reason why Kenwood is so valuable and so picturesque and impressive throughout is that it is basically sandwiched between Lake of the Isles and Cedar Lake. And lakefront is always going to be valuable, and those two lakes are some of the most picturesque lakes in Minneapolis proper. One of my favorite restaurants in the Twin Cities is actually literally named after this neighborhood. It's called the Kenwood. It's one of my favorite date night spots in all of the Twin Cities. It's chill, it's small, it's beautiful, it's romantic, and of course, it's delicious. Median sale price in Kenwood is 1.156 million. Median list price is 1.95 million. And like I mentioned, in the Cedar Isles Dean area, there is a school called Kenwood Community School. It's this beautiful historic school built in like 1903 or something like that. It's actually right across from the Kenwood, the restaurant, but it's a beautiful school and it's highly regarded, as well as having the arts programs and the autism program as well. Kenwood, I swear, you can't go wrong if you want an old historic home that's beautifully cared for and impressive and stately. I think Kenwood should be very high on the list. All right, y'all, next up on luxury neighborhoods in the Twin Cities. First of all, check out that home, wild. But we're talking Linden Hills. And Linden Hills is one of the only few neighborhoods in Minneapolis that borders two lakes, and the only neighborhood that borders Lake Harriet and B'nai-Makaska, both of which are very popular recreational lakes. I would say B'nai-Makaska. And Linden Hills is just such a cute neighborhood, such a sought after neighborhood. It has a really quaint little downtown area, little commercial core. It's very, very cozy. There's a few restaurants, coffee shop, but it's small, but so quaint and so walkable, which is a big reason for why people want to live there. That said, the median sale price doesn't really fall into luxury. I'm talking 680,000 or so. But of course, you have lakefront. You have all this lakefront, two different lakes, and it gets pretty impressive. You'll find a good amount of luxury style homes here. This home right back here, super cool, super modern, somewhat minimal. At any given time in Linden Hills, you'll see homes listed from, you know, well, really 500,000, but all the way up to maybe 4 million, maybe a little bit more. And for the most part, the luxury homes are going to be either on one of the lakes or very, very close to it, right? Or perhaps a new build in the Linden Hills neighborhood. And there's some very, very attractive new builds that will happen in this neighborhood. But what I really love about these is the potential to have sort of an old estate, a lakefront estate in Minneapolis. By the way, with a view of downtown, I think there's very few options, specifically like that home, but certainly like Linden Hills. And I promise, we're not just doing lakefront communities. After this, we'll go to one that's a little bit more landlocked. Y'all, and now we are in Fulton, and I think this is a good time to talk about what exactly am I considering luxury homes. It's not just price, right? Because there are areas that just are more expensive, and you can get a modest home for what maybe you could get a luxury home in another area. So what is luxury? I think luxury speaks as much to finishes and location as it does to size and sort of overall shininess, right? I actually do believe that there's such a thing as a smaller luxury home, in the same way that there's definitely things that exist that are very large and not what I would think of as luxurious. I think what you're ultimately after is something high-end, and certainly some people want a large mansion-esque or a proper mansion luxury home, but I think some people are just looking for something that feels refined, that feels exceptional, and of a particular quality. So what I'm setting the floor as luxury is going to change depending on where we are. For example, Linden Hills, the floor is closer to 1.5 to me to be considered luxury, whereas now we're in Fulton. Fulton is still a fairly expensive neighborhood compared to the rest of the Twin Cities, but the median single family home price is $615,000 here, which is not, you know, a luxury neighborhood per se, but you can definitely find luxury homes here in the Fulton neighborhood. And in this Fulton neighborhood, you will see homes that are getting scraped, right? You'll see homes that are getting removed, and new build homes are being put in its place. And I think that speaks to the desirability of a neighborhood, because there are other areas where that would not happen because it wouldn't quite make sense financially. And part of the reason that you're seeing that here is because of the schools. This is in Southwest Minneapolis, which are, you know, arguably the best schools in Minneapolis proper. You have Southwest Senior High School, Washburn Senior High School, Lake Harriet Community School, which is a middle school, Armitage Elementary, etc. And again, those are some of the best rated schools in Minneapolis proper. So Fulton, technically, pretty much landlocked. It maybe just barely borders Lake Harriet, and you will find Minnehaha Creek running through it. I would still say that qualifies as landlocked. But what I think you will find are potentials for luxury homes. Probably somewhere around 1.2 and up is where the luxury home would start to enter the Fulton area. But you definitely can find that whether you're along the creek or just tucked in a neighborhood or close to 50th and France. They do exist, and there's so much charm, so much beauty in this neighborhood. Even this new build, right? Very charming. And then the way it sort of ties in with all these very, very quaint and more on the modest end bungalows, ranches, post-war, Cape Cods, that kind of thing. All right, let's keep going. If you look at a map of Minneapolis, you'll see a green strip, which is basically park space that runs through most of the southwestern and southern portion of Minneapolis, and that is Minnehaha Creek. You should be able to see the creek right over here, and then we have walking path, biking path, all running all the way along it, and it is such a beautiful part, a beautiful moment in Minneapolis. And now if you look along that creek and biking trail and walking trail, you'll also see a road called Minnehaha Parkway. Minnehaha Parkway is one of my favorite roads in terms of just driving through it. It's a beautiful road, but also the homes, the architecture along the parkway are some of the coolest examples in the Twin Cities. And right now I'm in the Lyndhurst neighborhood, and just over to my east is the Tangletown neighborhood. Both neighborhoods are absolutely beautiful in their own right and deserve a place on their own. So I'm actually gonna go head over to Tangletown after this. But Lyndhurst has a median closed price of $675,000. Again, that price range on its own doesn't really qualify to me as like luxury level price range. But once you start getting into the 1 million, 1.2 million range, you really can start to find what are truly luxury style homes. Some new builds actually, and much more modern architecture, but also some really, really great examples of a more classic architecture. Right now, of all the homes on the market, I would say that somewhere between 1 million and 1.8 million, I would qualify as somewhat luxury, right? Obviously, the higher you go, maybe the more luxurious you get, but $1 million home in this neighborhood is going to be pretty great, something special, and usually tied to a particularly special piece of real estate, like one of these homes right along the parkway. This is something of a continuation of the previous neighborhoods, but the schools in the southwest section, which is literally a community, a greater community called Southwest, that contains a bunch of the neighborhoods that we're talking about. But the southwest portion hosts some of the best schools and really the highest highest rated schools in Minneapolis. So, for example, Washburn Senior High School, it's the highest rated high school in Minneapolis proper. It gets an A according to niche.com. Southwest Senior High School gets an A minus. There are two Catholic private middle schools that both get an A. That's Annunciation and Carondelet, I think. I literally have never said that word out loud. And then you also have Justice Page Community Middle. That gets a B, but you have Armitage Elementary, A minus, Burroughs Elementary, B plus, Kenny Elementary, B plus. For sure, the schools are a bit of an attractor to this area, and also the homes, again, truly some great examples of luxury homes in the Lyndhurst neighborhood. This intersection right here is Gladstone and Elmwood. Those are two names that you will not hear that often when it comes to the streets of Minneapolis. And that's because right now we're in a neighborhood called Tangletown. Tangletown was given its name in 1996. It changed from a name called Fuller to represent sort of the tangly nature of the roads, right? The roads are not typical to the grid system that is the rest of Minneapolis. And some of what I love about Tangletown is the slightly hilly nature of it, where again, a lot of Minneapolis pretty flat, whereas Tangletown is kind of one of the exceptions to that rule. And I would say that Tangletown is also maybe not the most consistent luxury neighborhood, right? Some of these other neighborhoods, maybe you're more likely to find luxury style homes, but you will find beautiful, very high-end, older homes that are extremely well cared for, and you can find luxury style homes. This one, does it count as luxury? I don't know, you tell me. But all up and down the street, there are some very, very impressive homes. And any, you know, within a few block radius of this, we're very close to the water tower. Again, partly speaks to the hilly nature of it, but all throughout here, really beautiful old homes, and some of them would qualify as luxury. Specifically, again, anything running along that Minnehaha Parkway, truly, truly beautiful homes. So if what you're looking for is what feels like a very established, long-standing, high-end neighborhood that isn't necessarily over-the-top luxury all the time, Tangletown could be a great fit for you and whoever you are moving here with. Again, you're gonna have great schools. We're in that southwest section, so it's gonna be the best schools in Minneapolis are in the southwest portion of Minneapolis. And I do think that this is a spot where you want luxury, you want that classic old style home, but you don't want to feel too over the top. We've helped people who have the budget for luxury, they have the taste for luxury, but they actually are maybe worried about what it will do to their reputation, their street cred, if you will. Like, can they realistically feel at home in a luxury home? And I think these homes and this neighborhood would be an easier thing to adapt to if you maybe aren't used to the luxury stamp. This is now our first official stop in Saint Paul. The rest of this will actually be in Saint Paul. So if you think I missed anything in Minneapolis, please do let me know. I think I got the hits though. I think I nailed it. So Saint Paul is obviously one of the Twin Cities. There's a lot in common with Minneapolis. One of the interesting details that is different about Saint Paul compared to Minneapolis is the age of the home, the potential ages of homes, which is to say that the homes in Saint Paul can be older than the homes in Minneapolis. I guess, how do you say that? The oldest homes in Saint Paul are, are older than the oldest homes in Minneapolis. It's further east. Expansion generally went westward, and so Saint Paul just started earlier than Minneapolis. You will see homes in Saint Paul consistently in the 1880s. Sometimes, hey, real quick, just a little view down here, no big deal. But you will see homes pretty consistently built in the 1880s in Saint Paul, some 1870s, but Minneapolis, it tends to be 1900 and later. I'm actually gonna end this video on what I think is one of the coolest places, one of the most unique places in the Twin Cities, maybe in the Midwest. It's like my favorite street, my favorite little neighborhood in terms of the architecture. Just such a cool feeling to go through there. But right here, another place that I absolutely love. Right here, this is Mississippi River Boulevard. And I don't know if you're seeing these houses in the background, but all along this road are some really great examples of luxury homes. That said, right now we're in the Highland Park neighborhood. We're a little further south. The homes tend to be a little bit less luxurious, a little bit less impressive the further south you go this way. But because the real estate is so cool, because the geography, the topography, where you're right above the bluff of the Mississippi River, there are people who, you know, scraping homes or doing these unbelievable additions to the homes that have already existed here since largely the 50s and 60s. And actually, one of the things that makes this spot so exciting is the fact that we're really, really close to the entrance of a little regional park, a pretty good sized regional park called Hidden Falls Regional Park. It's sort of the Saint Paul sister to Minnehaha Falls. Minnehaha Falls is the largest waterfall in a major metropolitan area, I think, at least in the US. I think. I heard that stat once. I don't know. Prove me wrong in the comments if you can. Whereas Hidden Falls is considerably smaller, considerably more, I don't know, less impressive, but this area itself is super cool, super tucked away, and kind of feels a little sneaky, feels a little hidden, but it's really a beautiful area. I actually intend to scoot down this way a little bit further for a couple of the other neighborhoods, and I'll show you at least one other spot on this Mississippi River Boulevard, because it goes pretty much the whole distance of Saint Paul along the river. There's one little spot where it sort of like veers away from the river, but it's such a beautiful road. This bike path and walking path that I'm on is such a great way to get through the city. This road, an awesome place to get through the city, whether it's in a car, on a moped, motorcycle, or just, again, bicycle or by foot. It's just such a beautiful area. You got views over this way, and randomly throughout there are just these stunning vistas of the Mississippi River looking across the river at Minneapolis. The median sale price in the Highland Park neighborhood is not, again, is not that of a luxury neighborhood. It's $475,000, which actually is the same exact number as the median list. Interesting stat that rarely is identical. But a big part of the draw, obviously, it's the natural beauty, it's the beautiful homes, even the homes that aren't, you know, luxury, that aren't along this river road. So many really great examples of beautiful architecture throughout a few different decades. The further south you go, the closer to the 50s and 60s. The further north you go in Highland Park, the more it's going to be in the 40s, 30s, and then once you get a little further north to the next neighborhood, Mac Groveland, then we're talking 30s, 20s, and the likes. But the schools here are a pretty big draw. You're going to have the best public schools in Saint Paul, in this kind of southern triangle of Saint Paul, specifically in this Highland Park neighborhood, and you have some very desirable private schools as well. Private school, number one, Cretin-Durham Hall. It's rated A+, a very highly regarded private school in Saint Paul. You have Highland Park Senior High School, that's gets an A-. You have Nova Classical Academy Upper, it's a charter middle and high school, that gets an A+. You have Highland Catholic, that's a private elementary and middle school. St. Paul Academy and Summit, those are both private K through 12s that get an A+. The private schools over here if you haven't noticed, Minnehaha Academy, another private, A+, Cyber Village Academy, that's a K through 12, that gets an A-. And then there's also Jiming Mandarin Immersion School, which we've helped people who are very, very specifically targeting that school as a place that they want their kids to go, and a highly regarded immersion school. There's only a few Mandarin immersion schools in Minnesota, one of which is in Highland Park. And right down here, that's the entrance to Hidden Falls Regional Park. Look at these houses. Beautiful houses, beautiful park, beautiful road, luxury, I'd say so. Just a minute ago, I might have said that I would be on Mississippi River Boulevard to talk about McAllister Groveland. That was a lie. Actually, I want to show you McAllister Groveland on Summit Avenue, and I'll also show you Summit Avenue in a little bit. And then next, we will go to another neighborhood on the Mississippi River Boulevard. But Summit Avenue is one of the coolest streets in Saint Paul. I would say the coolest street in Saint Paul when it comes to architecture. And it is quite possibly the coolest street in the Twin Cities, in all of Minnesota proper, as it comes to classic, beautiful, mansion-esque, luxury architecture. But I don't know, hard to say. Some of those lake roads in Minneapolis, there's some cool stuff there too. So I think it's just a little bit older, a little bit more of a classical architectural stylings like what you're seeing behind me. But McAllister Groveland, it's not all luxury. There are some beautiful, much more modest homes. The median sale price here is $440,000. Again, not a luxury price. We have a lot of people who are looking for a very nicely maintained bungalow, right? In the $400,000 to $500,000 range. Have a lot of people end up in Mac Groveland who are looking for that, with a cool city lifestyle, walkable to coffee shops, and you know, maybe Whole Foods or Kowalski's, and a decent amount of restaurants and things like that. But you can also help people find an epic, luxury, classic, older home on something like Summit Avenue. There's the occasional newer build here, but along Summit Avenue, that really doesn't exist. That historical preservation is very, very strong on Summit. In Mac Groveland, there's 2 listings currently on Summit that are like 1.2-ish million or so. There's also a Mississippi River Boulevard home, and then also a home on a street called Lincoln, which is just a little bit off Grand and off Summit. Another beautiful, beautiful road as well. Schools here are gonna be pretty much the same level of accessibility as Highland Park. All of those really, really high level private schools, there's so many in the St. Paul area, and you definitely would have access to those here, like Cretin-Durham Hall, like the Jiming Mandarin Immersion program, things like that. I'm excited to show you further down this way as we get closer into Summit Hill. But first, we're gonna hop over to Merriam Park, which is also known as Union Park, talk through what that neighborhood looks like as it pertains to luxury. Really cool neighborhood as well. Let's go. Now we are back in Merriam Park, which also has a few other names: Union Park, Lexington Hamlin. Mostly people are going to call this Merriam Park. And you can see this road right here, Mississippi River Boulevard. You can see this river right here, Mississippi River, probably pretty obvious. And there's a bridge behind me right here. That is the Marshall Avenue Bridge as it pertains to St. Paul, and the Lake Street Bridge as it pertains to Minneapolis, right? Minneapolis is right there, St. Paul, right where I am right now. Love the river. I absolutely love driving over these particular bridges, especially in the fall. It's just such a beautiful display of both water and beautiful foliage. But I would argue that that display is really what makes this real estate potentially so valuable, especially right along this riverfront. And by the way, this Mississippi River Boulevard, it will continue to curve under the Lake Street Bridge, the Marshall Avenue Bridge, whatever you want to call it. And this will fundamentally lead into Prospect Park, which is a neighborhood in Minneapolis. We've not done a virtual tour on that, but we will. Very cool neighborhood as well. I don't know that it would really fall too much into the luxury category. But to me, Marion Park is kind of all about the cozy residential nature that is up a little bit further into here, but then combined with the access and the proximity to the river and the bluff and all the natural elements that come with that. Marion Park is one of a few opportunities to buy a new build luxury home on the Mississippi River Boulevard. There, I think, are 3 currently available in the $3 million range. Beautiful lots. Yeah, no doubt that will be a very, very cool opportunity for whoever gets to buy it. And all along here, there's not really anything for sale currently, and I wonder why. It's probably because people want to hold on to what is very, very cool, very desirable real estate right along the riverfront. And again, we're in this lower triangle of St. Paul. I've mentioned it already. You're gonna have access to pretty much all of the same schools that we mentioned before, those unbelievable private schools that are extremely highly rated, but as well as the public schools and Jiming Mandarin immersion and all that, right? So you're in this southern triangle, you have access to that. Again, another driving factor of what makes this such a cool place. Speaking of cool places, the next place I am so excited for, truly what I think one of the most stunning neighborhoods in all of Minnesota. Let's do it. Now, my friends, we are in Summit Hill, and I think Summit Hill is one of the best examples, one of the coolest and most exciting examples of historic architecture anywhere in Minnesota, and dare I say, anywhere in the Midwest. And it is truly, truly something special. It's home to the Governor's Mansion in St. Paul. It's also home to the James J. Hill Mansion, James J. Hill being a legendary, famous railroad magnate who clearly extremely wealthy. A very, very cool building. You can tour it and all that. But truly, this Summit Hill neighborhood is full of some of the most stunning architecture in Minnesota. And Summit Avenue, the road itself, is a well-traveled road, partly for sightseeing and sort of a tourism in regards of just seeing this old architecture, but it's also a main thoroughfare, and it eventually turns into sort of a boulevard where there's a divided section, and that sort of spread apart feel shows up a little bit more as you head further west into Mac Groveland. The median sale price here is $615,000, which is actually pretty surprising, if I'm being honest, because of how epic it is. These homes in particular, on the sort of furthest east edge of Summit Hill, they have crazy views. I wish I could show you the view that this house has. It's wild, overlooking the river, overlooking the city. Probably one of the coolest pieces of land, of actual real estate in all of Minnesota. Yeah, it's really something special. I've actually been lucky enough to show a decent amount of homes here on Summit Avenue, and one of them is actually the 3rd oldest home in St. Paul. That kind of history, that's the kind of thing, the story of a home that I love so much about these luxury homes. mostly that kind of story, that kind of history, that is one of a kindness. That's a thing that you cannot duplicate, and that is something that I think is so special about these homes. Yes. Do I love modern luxury homes? Do I love modern builds? Yes, I definitely do. I really appreciate that architecture, but the history, the story, the one-of-a-kindness is something that I think there is no better example of than right here on Summit Avenue. But if I didn't say this at the beginning, I'm actually going to do 2 videos in regards to luxury areas, right? Where can you find luxury homes in the Twin Cities? This has been as it relates to neighborhoods within Minneapolis and Saint Paul. And coming up next, another video will be just best places to find luxury homes in the suburbs surrounding the Twin Cities. That is going to be a lot of fun. There are some crazy houses, some wild lake houses, and just beyond. So make sure, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified so you can see when we put that out. And of course, if you want to work with us, go to our website, tothetwincities.com. We have a contact form there that you can fill out in like 30 seconds or less, or shoot us an email directly to info@tothetwincities.com. They lead to the same spot, so totally up to you how you do it. We just ask that you do, and look forward to it. Look forward to helping you get here, helping you get the show on the road. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.